Hello and welcome to the 26th episode of Dystopedia. I'm your host Matt Davidson, once again joined by my colleague Andrew Hodgson.
How are you, Matt?
Yeah, I'm pretty well. Andrew, how are you going today?
Oh, I'm going pretty well.
How's your week been?
Mate, pretty uneventful.
Usual week, yeah?
Usual week. Yeah, just cogging a big corporate machine, and I've been busy. I can't tell. I can't tell if I've been productive or whatnot. I might have, but some people ask me that. I don't know what I did, but
Yeah,
treading water.
exactly.
What about you?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Actually, I watched an interesting movie the other day. It's called Elephant. It came out in 2003. It was inspired or was created by it was about like kind of like a school shooting around the times where Columbine was a big issue. It's a very controversial film, and it was inspired by the 1989 film Elephant, actually produced by Danny Boyle. Actually,
Ah,
it was on that one was on the killings in Northern Ireland. What was interesting about it was that it aired in 1989, and the film doesn't have any premise or any dialogue, but it just follows people from behind them, similar to that style of like Children of Men, the behind the camera
yeah.
shots, and it would just show random people. There was like 16 different murders that happened in the whole movie, and you just follow like the person walking up to someone and killing someone. Then it cuts to the next scene, show another killing,
Wow.
and it was actually referencing real life murders that happened during the Troubles, like within that time period, showing how murder happens and how random it was and how nonchalant it's been kind of treated, how everyone's come numb to it.
Mm.
And the film was very ahead of its time, very like it raised a lot of eyebrows and discussion points about how bad these things are happening in Northern Ireland. So yeah, but back to the original, the 2003 one was inspired by that similar kind of style. So it's basically a school shooting, and you're seeing it from a different point of view, like some of the like some of the students at the school, some of the teachers, and then the shooters themselves and stuff. And then like has like cuts from different timelines of when it's happening and stuff. That was very fascinating, and I can see why it was controversial at the time, because there's some scenes you're like, oh Jesus.
So even
Wow.
the 2003, there's no dialogue or anything. It just
There's dialogue, but there's no like character building or references really. It's just kind of like they're just talking, and then it'll cut to a scene somewhere else where someone's in the hallway walking, and then they're going to their class or something, or they're coming back from their sports program or whatever, and then they'll walk past the two shooters or something before they're about to begin the act.
Okay.
And then it'll cut to another timeline where the shooters are preparing for the attack and at their home and stuff. But there's no like real linking, not a traditional like, linking things together kind of thing in a movie. So, but yeah, it was interesting, and found it very, very fascinating. So yeah, it was an interesting camera style.
I have to give that a watch.
Yeah, it's very well done. Yeah.
What did I actually finished reading I Am Legend this week.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Sorry, I have achieved something this week.
Oh, there you go.
Outside of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really, really good, and a hell of a lot better than the movie that came out.
Why would you say that?
Will Smith pisses me off.
Look, there it
I'll
is.
admit, if he's good in a movie, like In the Pursuit of Happiness, and there's a few other films. Like if it's a good film, it's a good film. I don't feel like I Am Legend ever did justice to the plague victims or the supposed vampires, and
Yeah.
that like this one does, and the way it's written and the backstory that it kind of gives to the vampire virus and everything, and the way it goes to some sort of effort to explain it logically. I appreciate it. I don't always understand what it's going on about, but I like the fact that it's trying to make it logical in this world, and it talks about Robert Neville, surviving the night, and just how he's kind of trying to sort of bring some sort of routine to it all. It's an interesting read.
Okay. Yeah. Might be a future episode down the track.
I think it'll be a good future episode. I think just doing the book, and there was the 1950s film with Vincent Price as well that came out called it might have come out in the 60s. I don't remember, but it's called The Last Man on Earth, which is, I think it's a better, more faithful rendition of the book than the actual film that came out with Will Smith. So
Yeah.
but even just doing the book, because it's only about 150 pages.
Not a hard read or anything.
Not a hard read, quite a good read. So
yeah, well, that's the book that's kind of, you said, like birthed the zombie genre, didn't it?
it's a massive influence on George A. Romero for like Night of the Living Dead and everything. I think previous to that, I think in terms of vampires, it was very much vampires were, I guess, among us. You think of the story of Dracula, and I guess they needed human blood, so there's no point in wiping us out. Where with this kind of, but you never knew where the origins came from for these vampires, right? They just sort of happened.
Yeah.
With this is more, it goes to some sort of detail to actually explain. It's like a plague that's come along and it sort of wiped out humanity. So yeah, it's really influenced that. It really influences zombie genre off the back of that, I think. So
Yeah. Well, that sounds very intriguing. Yeah, definitely do that down the track then.
yeah.
Well, I've been working on this segue for how we can get into today's episode because 2 weeks ago we walked away from Omelas and we ended up at the delicatessen. And while we were at the delicatessen, there was a food reviewer there. And what was his name?
Bartlett Finchley.
Bartlett Finchley. And he's the topic of today's episode, which is a thing about machines. That's about the longest stretch of the bow we've ever done. Yeah,
That's a great segue.
it is.
What
Yeah.
are we going to do next week?
Oh, we'll have to keep.
You have
working
to
on
wait
that
till the end of the
this
episode.
to find out. Yeah. But yeah, so this week we're doing a thing about machines, and this came out in 1960. It was season 2, episode 4 of the Twilight Zone. So before we get into this episode, have you ever really watched any Twilight Zone before?
Not really. I've always known about it just being referenced in other things. I've always meant to. Like, I might have watched the odd episode here or there, or it's on cable or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd sit down and watch it. But no, I can't say I've ever sat there and watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the first episodes I probably watched was way back when we did that examination day episode with Little Dicky.
That's right. Yeah. Well, that was. Yeah, I guess we're more focusing on Henry Slesler's version of it as opposed to the story. But I mean, there was a great rendition of it. But yeah, that was like because I think in the original Twilight Zones, it was like one episode was the whole episode, like as in like one section, one topic was a whole episode. Where in the later ones they started to split episodes in half. So yeah, so the examination day was like an episode within an episode. So like there's like 2 parts to that one episode. So
we're running out of ideas.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Or they're trying
wait till we start doing that.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Or it felt like, we want to conclude the story, but there's not much to squeeze out of this, so we'll just have to like make it half an episode. Yeah, so it's a bit like that. Interesting enough, when I was a kid, I went to Disneyland, and the one in Euro Disney in Paris, and there was a ride there that was inspired by the Twilight Zone called the Tower of Terror. And upon reading that,
not like the Goosebumps Tower of Terror.
No, not that one. No. It was a bit. Yeah, it was like the Hotel Terror. I think maybe it was called. I think it was Tower of Terror from memory. But yeah, and I've read recently too. They've done a Lethal Weapon replacement on us as well. It's no longer called the Tower of Terror. It's now some Guardians of the Galaxy ride thing. I was like, this is disgraceful. This is the Tower of Terror. I'm a disgrace.
Have they changed anything about it to make it look more Guardians of the Galaxy? Or
I assume they have, but there.
Well, I mean, we're going to have to get. It's the second time we referenced the Lethal Weapon thing. Now we're going to have to get into it.
Yeah, no, that's one of the greatest travesties of Australian history. That For some reason, at Warner Brothers, when Warner Brothers Studio opened in the late 80s, early 90s.
Movie World,
yeah. Warner Brothers Movie World. And they created a roller coaster, and it was called Lethal Weapon roller coaster. Yeah. And I don't know why it was called Lethal Weapon, but goddamn, it was Lethal Weapon.
It was the 90s, and we just accepted it.
Only at Warner Brothers Movie World can you ride Lethal Weapon, the most heart-thumping, suspended, inverted, outside looping coaster in the entire world. It'll blow you away. Ride Lethal Weapon, opening December 17th, only at Warner Brothers Movie World.
I mean, maybe one of the twirling bits look like the chamber of a gun, maybe? I don't know. That's the best I could do.
You're questioning it too much, man.
I know, I am. And yeah, we went on a road trip actually up there like 10 years ago, and they've renamed it the Arkham Asylum after Batman. I'm like, well, this isn't Lethal Weapon.
This is an outrage.
Yeah. I'm writing letters to my local bloody local state politician about this. Yeah, disgrace.
Yeah, but I love how like we went there and it's just like the same ride, but they just put a few like Batman,
just a new
Joker, and
he's done a new paint job. That was about it, wasn't it?
Paint job. Well, here's a poster of like the Joker. Oh, there's Harley Quinn, and it's now Arkham Asylum,
and it always has been.
It always has been. There always was, brother.
I mean, my VHS tape of some Warner Brothers movie I had back in the day says it was Lethal Weapon, but that must be mistaken.
Yeah, you must be mistaken.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how we got that down that path track.
It's a travesty.
It is, but the Tower of Terror ride from the Twilight Zone, which inspired the Disney one, got rebranded. So I was a bit disappointed to read that, but it is what it is.
It brought up old wounds, didn't it?
It did, yeah. Brought up some, childhood trauma.
Yeah. As we mentioned before, I mean, another slide on Australian history was Knowlesy being overlooked for Australian Idol 2003 as well. Yeah. Just while we're bringing them up,
Yeah, there's a long laundry list of things that have been outrageous in Australia. So, and that's one of many long of them. So, anyway, stay on target. Back to what we're talking about.
Fucking already.
Yeah. But the Twilight Zone is, I think I started watching it back during actually COVID times. Actually, I got like a free trial for Paramount Plus or something, and I saw it on there. And I was always intrigued by it. It looked very something eerie and ominous about it, where you wanted to see what it was about and what it was referencing. And I watched the '80s one, so that one's I'd say a bit more like kind of it's dated a bit better now than some of the '60s ones, obviously, because it's a bit more time focused in that way. But I guess some of the other episodes are a bit more timely in that, like timeless in that way. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I found that like a lot of them thought provoking, and like you see famous actors in it before they were big. Like there's one episode in particular that's got like Bruce Willis in it. He's like, oh shit, before he actually became fucking with Die Hard and stuff. So yeah. What was his name in Die Hard? The character?
John McClane.
Before he became John McClane. Yeah. Great Christmas movie, by the way. Yeah. But yeah, before we go into the episode and stuff, I think we should, maybe I do a bit of pay a bit of homage to give Rod Serling a bit of his credentials in give him his flowers, because he's a really interesting guy and very fascinating creator, isn't he?
Well, yeah. What's interesting, you go back looking for the writer, and like you see Rod Serling at the start of every episode, like talking about what's happening now in the Twilight Zone and everything, and he gives really interesting monologues. It's so poetic as well.
Oh, it is, yeah.
But he's something. There's something quite. Maybe it's just me, but there's something quite spellbinding about the bloke. I find I don't know what it is, but it's just the way it's all written and the way he talks about it, and
just the way he's wearing the suit and he's got the slick back hair, and it seems like he'd be one of those fucking kind of like scary like police interrogators back in the day with the cigarette, kind of like questioning you, finding all your flaws, and he can see through your bullshit and stuff.
He didn't mind a dart, did he? I think he used to. He was quite known for chain smoking. I think up to 4 packs a day. So
he had to go.
Smoking was probably healthy back then.
Oh yeah. Kids, yeah. The doctors recommended Camel cigarettes, wasn't it?
Doctors in all branches of medicine, doctors in all parts of the country were asked, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?" Once again, the brand named most was Camel. Yes, according to this repeated nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
Yeah. But no, in the looking at the writing, I think it said he wrote or co-wrote 92 of its 156 episodes.
Yeah.
Which is insane. For like a TV creator, that's highly unusual. I can't think of anyone that's no one comes to mind straight away to.
Well, I guess too, this is when TV was starting to take off, right? So where it was the golden age of TV in the 1950s, especially, and I guess it was kind of like a new pioneer in a way, venture front, where people didn't know how to, a bit like the Wild West, you can kind of do your own, venture out and do your own thing and figure things out. But at the same time, it was still very heavily regulated in some aspects. We're going into advertisement and stuff, but yeah, he was born in the mid-1920s in Syracuse, New York, to a Jewish family. He grew up in the area of Bloomington, New York, which apparently played a big role in he references it a lot in his works down the track, and apparently too he was very interested in reading and writing, and he was kind of also too he was kind of seen as like the class clown in his school as well. So apparently he caused a bit of mischief and a bit of mayhem like that in his early adolescence, and
probably didn't like being boxed in or anything.
Yeah, probably didn't like being told what to do as well, which seems later on in his works. But he grew a big interest in sports, so he was really good at table tennis, normal tennis. He played a bit of football, like American football, despite being kind of a small bloke as well. He only like 5'5" or something, so wasn't the tallest of blokes. But he had a fascination too with writing, as I said earlier, and got interested in radio as well. So that played a big role. But as he got a bit older, and this was when World War II was starting to break out, his older brother enlisted in the army. So, and he followed in his footsteps and enlisted as well. And
he paratrooper, wasn't he?
Yeah, so he became a paratrooper and did the training there. Apparently, while in there, he was apparently a really good boxer as well. So he used to fight.
He kind of looks like a boxer as well.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Put him up. Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, he does. And apparently, he made it 17 bouts without receiving a knockout or something. And then he finally got knocked out and thought, I better not do this anymore because it's not good for my health. But no, apparently, he's like a very good fighter as well. So, and obviously, a big part of him enlisting was, fighting the Nazi-occupied parts of Europe and being Jewish as well. So it was quite personal to him. But unfortunately for him, he didn't get deployed to Europe. He got deployed to the Pacific War.
Yeah, I think he saw intense combat in the Philippines, most notably, wasn't it?
Yeah, they went to the Philippines and New Guinea and other parts of the Philippine Islands as well. So
we've seen some shit there.
Oh yeah, and I think that played a big role in shaping a lot of the stuff he talks, like he showcases in his works, right? So he saw like a lot of bloodshed on both sides, a lot of death, like a lot of carnage and mayhem and things like that amongst that as well.
I think a lot of the later writing about, they say it's violence and war, but I think also a lot about morality as well, from the shit he would have seen on both sides, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think too. Another thing that I think it was more like, and you see a lot of times in Twilight Zone episodes where people die in unexpected and mysterious ways. Where one thing that really stuck with him was that apparently when the Air Force were dropping off food supplies or just normal supplies to them, a crate fell out of when it was going, and it landed on one of the privates' heads, like so it decapitated him, and that person just died like that, obviously. And just something as random as that happening, and he saw that, and it just it was like really traumatic for him.
Way to go as well.
Way to go, yeah.
You're over there fighting for your country, and you to go like that. It just seems so unjust.
Just exactly, yeah. Something is like freakish as that happening. Yeah,
it's almost trivial. Like it's
it is like it's like a comical, cartoonish in a way. Yeah, it is. It's like bizarre. Yeah, and then obviously seeing that would have been pretty traumatic, and then I believe because that private that did die was Jewish as well, and he led the funeral for it, and placed like the stones on the gravestone, like the way the Jewish faith do it. So
what do you tell his parents?
Yeah, I know. It's like, like they go on about your son died with honor, and you find out like that he died in that manner. Like it's pretty grim in that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, during his military career, so obviously he went through the Philippines, was a big part of it, and he won like a lot of awards in the military too, which includes some of them includes the Bronze Star. He got shot, so he was then received the Purple Heart as well, so that played they got that recognition, and the parachute badge, the glider badge. So he won a lot of different in addition for things he saw, and after he came back from the war, it obviously it affected him dramatically, and he said that he left him with nightmares and flashbacks for the rest of his life. And in the quote from him saying, "I was bitter about everything, and at loose ends, when I got out of the service, I think I turned to writing to get it off my chest." So you can see like he needed some form of avenue to release those feelings.
It would have been pretty cathartic for him.
Yeah.
I read here. So he started in radio in the late 1940s. I think he was like writing scripts and that for local stations, I believe.
That's correct. Yeah, wrote scripts like that, and then he obviously went back to college as well to study literature and writing for he said like for radio and stuff like that, which eventually led him to going into writing for TV as well during the golden age of what they called the golden age of television in the 1950s. So this is like your I Love Lucy's and Father Knows Best and stuff like that. Yeah, so, all those old classics. But apparently his big breakthrough in television was a show called Patterns. So it was a live TV drama about corporate ethics. It earned critical acclaim and marked Serling as a major writing in new talent. So that's what really got him the tracks rolling. So for him, and another one that got him recognition too was called Requiem for Heavyweights. So that got the foundations for getting the ball rolling as well. And what he found too, what I found really interesting as well, that he found that when he was, because obviously this was a very sanitized time with the appealing towards making the corporations, the advertisements happy and family safe, family friendly kind of content.
Would have been like right in the middle of McCarthyism as well.
Yeah, right in the middle of that.
Conformity and
American
stuff. Values and
exactly. And a lot of times he would write things and they would say, "No, you got to tone it down, or you can't say this, you can't say that." Like he'd bring up things like racism and sexism, and
he would have stood out in this age. In this age of conformity, he would have been a target.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's actually kind of amazing he wasn't really part of any of these trials or anything.
Yeah, no. Oh, maybe because he had that World War II background, that might have helped him a bit. I don't know, but but he really for what he figured out too, which was really clever. I mean, that's why Twilight Zone is good in this way. He figured that if I write it in a setting that's far from the realities of the world, but then still have these underlying messages to it, I can get my point across.
Well, you can sneak it through, can't you?
Yeah,
because I guess people wouldn't be thinking critically, would they? I guess it's like you think of the Shirley Jacksons of the world with like the Lottery or Ursula Le Guin and stuff that we did on The Ones Who Walk Away from Homeless, that they would just finding this way to like using allegory to sneak through political points.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what he did with the Twilight Zone. Exactly,
it's fantastic. Like, there's no you don't get Paul Verhoeven or Danny Boyle or John Carpenter without people like this to sort of kick the door down.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, what have you said? One of his biggest gripes and what he's found deeply concerning to what you just touched on before was McCarthyism. He wanted to bring up the civil rights issues and the people's individual freedoms and militarism too. That's where the military stuff was really taking off. The CIA's come into effect. America's interfering with other nations and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, the Truman Doctrine and everything. And
yeah, exactly.
I think it probably even a lot of like nuclear anxiety as well.
Oh, that would be a big factor too. Yeah, and also too the old, the turtle. What was his name again?
Oh, Bert the Turtle.
Bert the Turtle. That kind of taking like what a joke it was and stuff.
That's right. Duck and cover.
Yeah. What he liked too was what was great about the Twilight Zone as well is that he was the creator, executive producer, head writer, and narrator. So this gave him unprecedented, interfering control, right? So he could do and say what he wanted within the scopes of the science fiction, mystery, horror genre, right? So that's where he could put through those his thoughts and feelings in that fashion, right?
He had full control, full creative control.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, as you said earlier, like he produced how many episodes? There was over 100 or something. He wrote himself.
90, yeah, he wrote or co-wrote 92 of the 156. So
that's insane.
That's what, 60%, 70%,
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, the reason why he loved the anthology aspect of it, not making it like a proper series where one leads the other, was that he could then explore so many different range of topics. So as it was touched on earlier, one episode could be referencing, the Red Scare under the bed, or one could be about the civil rights movement and racism. Another one could be about the bomb going off, something. So it gave him the avenue, whatever he's thinking or his thoughts were at that particular point of time. Oh, I can channel it in this direction, which is really interesting. Smart way to do it.
Very smart way to do it. Very ahead of his time.
Absolutely.
I mean, this, we think of anthology series now, and we did a Black Mirror episode a weeks ago. That would be like, this would have been the birth of the anthology series, wouldn't it?
Exactly, yeah. And it's funny, here's one of his quotes that in reference to this about how, he could, separating, using it in a science fiction or a fantasy setting allows him to say his thoughts and feelings. So he goes, I found that it was all right to have Martians saying things that Democrats and Republicans could never say. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So, so it's like saying that this quote and this metaphor speaks to the power of truth in an era rigged by broadcast control. So it allowed him, as I said earlier, to say what he wanted to say in a way where he couldn't be stifled or considered biased one way or the other to certain political movement or party. Yeah. So no, he's a clever guy, ahead of his time in that way. But yeah, I guess enough about old Rod Serling, but we'll get into the episode itself. So it was called A Thing About Machines, and it was written in 1960. As I said earlier, season 2, episode 4, and it follows the story of old
Bartlett Finchley.
Bartlett Finchley, yeah. So you want to give a brief synopsis of it?
I'll give a brief synopsis of that. Before we do that, though, what are we drinking today, Matthew?
Oh, yes, we're back on the old Czech lager again. What's it called? The Bud...
Well, you are.
I am. Aren't you drinking?
Well, yeah, but you didn't drink last week, remember?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so I'm trying it for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like the old German hand grenade, this thing, isn't it? It's bloody huge. Do some serious damage.
Well, as I said last week, the whole rights thing between the American Budweiser and Czech Budweiser has been going on since about a week before Germany's invasion of the old Sudetenland. So,
yeah, there we go. That's not a bad drop, this one, actually. I don't mind it. It just tastes that the wheatiness to it.
Oh, yeah. Definitely tells European.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So, Bartlett Finchley is a pompous, bad-tempered food critic who takes pleasure in insulting others and bullying the appliances in his home. He constantly complains about modern conveniences, but enjoys the lifestyle they give him. One day, his machines seem to come alive, breaking down and turning against him. Typewriters jam, televisions mock him, and his car refuses to obey. As the attacks escalate, Finchley flees on foot, only to be chased by his own driverless car into a swimming pool, where he drowns. The episode ends with the implication that the machines have the final word.
Yeah, there you go. It's funny, when you first watch it on the surface, it doesn't seem like there's a lot there, but then a couple of times I watched it 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, no, there actually is a couple of there's a lot of smart, subtle references to things that were going on at the time in the period.
Yeah, well, we actually had a discussion, didn't we? You text me on the Monday or the Tuesday. So what we'll generally do is when we finish an episode, we usually we'll give ourselves a full week to prepare. So generally we'll both watch it, and then we'll spend the days going through it. And I think on the Monday we'd both watched it, and then you'd said to me, I'm thinking we should do another episode. I couldn't see much in it. And then I watched and I thought, no, there's a bit there. And then I'm like, actually, no, maybe there isn't. And then I sort of started panicking.
Yeah,
we were going to change it, but no, let's persevere. There is a bit in this. So
yeah, no, definitely. And then when you're watching it a second and third time, the little references here, and then just researching the time and the period and about the fears and the anxieties of people, especially with automation coming in around that time in the factories and stuff. So I'm like, oh, that's what it could be referencing here, and how also too taking taking the piss out of people that are stuck in their own ways, and not adapting with the times as well. So
Yeah, I see a lot of like hypocrisy with Bartlett Finchley as well, and almost him as like I'm in retail. We're both in retail in a way, where that customers have just gotten worse as well. That nothing's ever their fault.
Yeah.
I think 7 or 8 out of 10 times it's usually customer error. He's I put my foot through. It's not my fault. I shouldn't have to fix that. That whole and they've only become more demanding over time.
Exactly.
But the actual quality of appliances has gone down. It's like we're back in when this was made in the 60s, the early 60s, appliances were built to last.
Yeah.
It was only sort of a little bit after this where planned obsolescence came in, and it was kind of tied to the economy, the cycles. Like, we've got no interest in things lasting forever because there's no money in it, But he kind of like the very thing that like things are meant to break. That's the point of it, Like it kind of, the cycle depends on that. Consumers churn. It depends on that. We all make money. The industry goes. The manufacturing keeps going. It keeps everyone in jobs. He's I think it's established he's a food critic for gourmet magazines or something.
Yeah, I think he's just I think obviously food was part of it. I think he was creating other things as well. Like, there's always the fine things of life. Things that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
But the irony of it is that his job would depend on that consumer churn. The consumers wanting the novelty things and the things they don't really need. And the whole economy kind of depends on like planned obsolescence or like perceived obsolescence, trends, like throwing things out to buy the latest, greatest things. So it's like,
the latest restaurant, the latest food dish, whatever it is.
Yeah. Like you always find like, I find, and it hits really close to home for me, and that like when people complaining about my dishwasher broke after 5 years, like, well, what makes you so special? Like, things are supposed to break, and you're supposed to go out and buy another one because it keeps everyone employed, it keps the system going. Like, what makes you so special, mate? Like,
exactly, yes. Or especially too, if you're buying a $200 one, like, what do you expect? I mean, if you're paying for like one of those $2-3 grand ones, like, okay, maybe you expect it to last a little bit longer than 5 years, but at the same time, like, people, as you said, the people are so like entitled and demanding in that regard. And it's never their fault either.
But without thinking like, shit, maybe the whole system. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? Like, the whole system depends on things breaking. So, like, go out and consume. Be a good consumer. That's what we're supposed to do,
Yeah, what was it? You told me off air, sorry, about that story with, was it Thomas, Edison invented the light bulb, and they figured they could make the power wattage or the length of time that the light bulb could go for like over 1,000 hours. But then,
well, to give you, this probably gets us into the historical context of this podcast, but... so it's actually a really interesting story. So Thomas Edison had invented the light bulb in 1879.
Yeah.
So I think by about 1899, the filaments, what a filament's basically the wire inside the light bulb, the bit that lights up. Those like vintage ones. Where you can see the white. Apparently today there is still a light bulb at a fire station in California. It's been going for like 120 or 130 years or something like that.
Wow.
And you can go and see. It's a weird rabbit hole I went down. These all these lighting enthusiasts and stuff. Like it's
like train spotting on steroids.
But it's like a tourist attraction. But they've actually got live webcams showing like 24 hours to the light bulb at this fire station. But apparently the light bulb's like outlasted like 5 webcams or something. Like, that's how it's been going. But nobody knows I can't remember who the inventor was who made this light bulb and made the filament in it. But nobody knows like the secret of how it's lasted so long died with him. But this is the point. That was like around the late 1800s. By about 1924, and this is a really good documentary I'd recommend watching called The Light Bulb Conspiracy. It's this concept of like planned obsolescence, which is kind of where we are now. So by 1924, the bulb lifespan, or the average bulb lifespan, was 2,500 hours. So that's a long time. But it's called the Phoebus Cartel, and this is what this documentary goes into. So basically, they were formed in 1924 by like major light bulb manufacturers. So the one you'd probably know the best, or most people would know the best, would be Philips. but there's like Osram, there's like General Electric via their subsidiaries and stuff as well, would be like the three main ones. But it was like Europe, Africa, America, they all joined together in 1924. And their goal was to reduce bulb lifespan from 2,500 to 1,000 hours to boost sales. They all worked out that there's no interest and no money being made in things lasting longer. We want them to go down to 1,000 hours because it keeps that churn going, and we all make money. So they kind of all joined together to ensure that. It's very dystopian in that sense, but it went further. Like they enforced like monthly performance reports. So like fines were issued if bulbs exceeded lifespan or failed to meet standards. So they were kind of like they were heavily fined if their output if they weren't showing like a reduction. So by about 1940, they reduced the lifespan to 1,000 hours. So they were so much more technologically advanced, but they were basically just downgrading the quality of the product to meet a certain amount of hours. It's like around the time too. So this concept of like, so this is one of the earliest examples of planned obsolescence. Now, if you think about the things we buy today,
like your iPhones,
the iPhones, TVs, washing machines, dishwashers, fucking the latest gaming console. You think of like games like FIFA, like there'll be a new one comes out every year. Fuck all changes.
Oh yeah.
But the slight changes, and it's just churn,
the reskins,
churn. Yeah. It's but like this goes so in the Great Depression. So in 1932, there was a New York real estate broker by the name of Bernard London. He came up with a radical proposal. So he actually proposed making planned obsolescence, like writing it into law. So basically, there was a paper he wrote ending the Depression through planned obsolescence. So what his suggestion was every product should have a legal expiry date to keep factories running and unemployment low. So essentially, if you kept let's just say, for example, it's like a washing machine or something. If you capped it beyond its legal lifespan, its end date, you would be taxed for how long you kept it. So this sort of discouraged hoarding and that, and like, if you handed it into the government, you'd be given receipts that would offset the tax of the new one if you went and bought a new one. So it's rewarding buying. But literally, these would be taken, destroyed, and then it would encourage you to go and buy new. So the whole thing with like this idea of like someone coming around, taking your stuff, destroying it, you would go out and buy new. It's so like
it's laying the foundations to modern society.
Yeah, it's laying the foundations. Yeah. But it was this radical proposal. It was rejected, and I think it was rejected because I think in America, like, the government interfering and writing into law and the First Amendment and all that sort of stuff, I don't think it would have ever flown.
And this is during the Great Depression too.
During the Great Depression,
people can't afford anything. So
and that's one of the things where you look at, like, it all sounds good in theory, but it's kind of like assuming that you would have the money to go and buy it and start the cycle. You know what I mean? But in theory, like, I don't really, and it kind of obviously, not to mention the environmental factors, like you're destroying all this product, that's got to go somewhere. Yeah. But I can kind of let him off because it wasn't really a thing. Nobody thought about it at that time.
Knew about it.
Yeah. But we see a shift in like the 1950s. So, and this is the birth of like your marketing, like that Mad Men era as well. Yeah. So we've kind of had like it was never written into law, but we've had marketing. Marketing, as we know, sort of gives you the I guess it sells you the illusion of choice. You know what I mean? It is manipulative by its very nature, marketing, right? Oh yeah, absolutely. Goebbels was the daddy of it, Yeah. So it's like, but it uses desire and like trend cycles. That's where you start seeing like retro-ish appliances and cars, and there'd be new cars released every year, new stuff released every year, and it all played into like the 1950s. It played into McCarthyism, and it was seen as that fight against communism. If you know what I mean? Where you were buying the latest greatest thing, you were being a good consumer, this is your values at the time, and keeping up with the Joneses. If you didn't have the latest greatest thing, and you didn't want to be seen as an outcast or someone that was not buying into it, essentially. But I think like the post-war shift helped as well, right? You'd probably talk more, where America become a bloody manufacturing empire off the back of the Second World War with the way they mobilized, right? Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think by the end of it, they were, I think for 7% of the world's population, they were making something like 50% of the world's goods. That's insane, isn't it? Yeah. And then you've got the Marshall Plan with like most of the world in ruins from the Second World War, a lot of Europe in ruins, lending money, and that gave them buying power, and they're all demanding American goods, and the whole thing was just bubbled. It was just
spreading Americanism around the world.
Yeah. It was spreading Americanism, and it was like. Yeah, I guess this is at that time where your values, then the American values, but it was owning the latest, greatest thing, and I think it plays a lot into this episode as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it kind of like talks about the modern day, or at the time, the modern day anxieties they had about the technology becoming part of everyday life of
Becoming
everything.
too reliant on
Too reliant, exactly, yeah. So you can see that. But then it also kind of takes the piss out of people that were going too far, like complaining about it, because I think Bartlett Finchley was a bit like that, wasn't he? He's a bit whimsical, a bit over the top, and blaming all these problems and stuff on the technology, as opposed to like thinking,
him being a fuckwit.
Yeah. I guess you could kind of look into like Finchley, because he's using these. You've used it as an like allegory for saying like he's like a boss, and then his machines are like he's like they're working for him or meant to help him. He's got so like blaming all his issues and problems on the technology, therefore that it rebels against him and then tries to oust him. I guess you can kind of view it in that kind of way, where it's like saying, you got to sometimes look at yourself and not blame all these external factors for things that are going wrong in your life. And it seems like that's what Bartlett does. Like he's blaming the typewriter girl. He's blaming the repairman.
He's upset at her because of her output. Only 30 pages in 3 hours.
Yeah, what was the quote? Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence within
half a day with a quill pen.
Quill pen, yeah. And things like that. And then earlier in the episode with the TV repairman saying, you're basically an idiot, and you'll have one chapter in my memoirs dedicated to you about how useless you are and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Well, because he's going on to the TV repairman saying, you were here last month fixing this thing. He goes, well, clearly someone's been playing around with the wires. That's why it's breaking down again. Yeah. It's just he can't help himself. Yeah. Well, the episode kind of blurs the line. So is it paranoia, or is it actually really happening to him and he's in that weird dimension? It left ambiguous that way.
I thought that too, and it kind of reminded me a lot of like The Shining or something. Sort of going mad in this house and everything.
Exactly. All that one scene with the clock keeps ticking and he throws it down. It's still ticking and he starts smashing it and stuff. Yeah. And I mean, it is a bit campy in these days, this day and age, especially the razor scene. When the razor blade comes,
see the rope, yeah.
Yeah, you can see the rope, yeah.
or the little string, yeah.
The string.
I think he trips over it as well.
He does, yeah. Yeah. Well, I was researching, not a lot on it, but I was trying to find out what the general reaction was from the audience at the time. And apparently people had a bit of a mild interest or reaction to it because it wasn't really a standout. I felt like the themes were interesting, but because the character was so over the top and dramatic and a bit whimsical, it kind of took away from it, from what it was saying. And also too, like the concept itself was interesting, but it probably could have been executed a little bit better. And I can kind of see that because it kind of gets lost in that him being a bit, oh hello darling kind of thing to it, yeah. Some critics said that the actor Richard Haynes, he was too theatrical and exaggerated everything, and it kind of undercutted like the seriousness of the episode.
But I don't know. I look back at a lot of actors at that time. It always sort of feels like that as well,
Yeah, but he didn't feel like an American actor. He felt like some kind of some British playwright or something. I don't know if you got that vibe as well.
He just felt very Vincent Price to me.
Yeah, I guess it is a little bit that, isn't it? Yeah. Also, people said that it was, while the episode was creepy, it was I guess the Twilight Zone was known for being a bit, terrifying, a bit, very eerie. Where this one was a bit creepy in a way, but because it was a bit campish in the way it was executed, it kind of took away from it. Like especially the car scene. You can see the guy driving the car.
Quite clearly, yeah.
Quite clearly, yeah. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of taken away the immersion, hasn't it? Yeah, it was good in that way. But it's funny reading it in retrospectively, people reacting to it. People have said like it's obviously it's quite campy, but then they appreciate how it's kind of been prophetic in a way when regarding like AI and modern technology as well. So, and how we are so reliant on machines now.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's probably one of the biggest like modern parallels on it. Like in both, we think of AI or his machines literally coming to life and attacking him.
Yeah.
Like both kind of represent, I guess, blind faith, but both represent a loss of control. If you think about if you think about us with AI and the way it is, and obviously it's not going away. It's only getting. I think ChatGPT just released like GPT-5, which was their latest, which I think has got like reasoning capabilities, and like it's got thinking built into it basically. So we're kind of getting one step closer to to them taking over.
Yeah. I know, it's freaky, isn't it?
Yeah, and we're only at the start, but essentially, if we think of like the way AI works and the faith we put in it, like I think you said the other week when you just ask it to write an essay or something, we don't we ask it to do something and it does it, but it's called like the black box problem. We don't understand why it does it or what it goes through to do it. We just know that it's sort of finding patterns. It doesn't really understand. That's the concept of like machine learning. There's a few like, the way, if you think of like traditional programming, it worked on like a lot of what you call like an if function. We were talking about Excel before, like if this does this, then you do this. That's kind of how it's done, like all the way through. Where machine learning essentially was what AI does. It learns from examples instead of following hard-coded rules. So it basically finds patterns and it makes predictions. But then the more data you give it, it understands. So I'm not say understands probably the wrong word, but it improves with more data, but it essentially gets better at guessing. As I say, it doesn't understand what it's doing. It's just finding patterns. So like machine learning, you would generally see in like, like your spam filters, like appliance diagnostics, smart thermostats, I guess recommendations on Netflix, all that sort of stuff. That's the patterns it will find. That's where it's already used.
Yeah.
You get up to like deep learning, which you use in like voice assistants and facial recognition and smart fridges and all like Roomba map. Like your vacuums that kind of map out. They use deep learning. That kind of mimics how we do it. So they're kind of getting there. Like, so it basically detects patterns, builds features, recognizes objects. Essentially, if you're using like a cooking analogy, it's like it watches thousands of cooking videos and then learns from that, just filters through them, and it learns by like, it builds up sort of like it's layered. It detects the patterns, builds the features to recognize the objects after all, or like filtering through all that data. And then we've got reinforcement learning. So it's basically it learns either using rewards and penalties, similar how you train your dog, right? Sit equals treat, no sit equals no treat, right? It's gonna find the pattern. This is essentially like how they teach self-driving cars or warehouse robots or like game playing AI. Essentially they self-driving cars are taken through thousands and probably millions and millions of simulations to try and detect, and it learns by the mistakes it makes. Essentially, that's kind of where we are. But the problem with all of this, see, we know the results it gets, but they call it the black box problem. So we can see the input and we can see the results that it gets, but we have no clue, and I don't know if we'll ever understand the decision that it makes to get there. So the problem is, how can we trust it? And then, like, there's the biases it picks up. I think there was a case in like, I think Amazon, when they were hiring, how like a lot of companies will use AI to filter through resumes and stuff.
Yeah.
There was a case where what they found is they gave it the information. Look, these are the resumes of the people. These are some successful applicants. These are their applications. Match the ones to this, and they happen to all be men. So what it did, anything that had mention of woman or anything in it, pushed them away.
Interesting.
So it was kind of reinforcing, like, we think machines, I suppose, are going to be like, what's the word?
All knowing, all wise.
Yeah. All knowing, all wise, impartial.
Yeah.
But they're kind of like, they're learning from like biased data, but the humans by very very nature usually biased, right? And we know there's an imbalance generally in corporate world with like higher paying jobs with men and women, that sort of thing in general. So it's kind of reinforcing that bias as well.
Yeah.
So like it's with cars. Like if something goes wrong, who's to blame? Who's to blame if it hits someone? Is it the programmer? Is it the car? Is it the company? Like you kind of can't, like, it's hard to build any trust with it when you don't understand it. And then when it goes wrong, you can't explain why it went wrong.
Yeah.
And we seem to be putting a lot of faith in it.
Well, we kind of touched on it a bit in The Ones That Walk Away from Omelas, and we were talking about the trolley problem and how in modern technology with self-driving cars, how it has that dilemma, right? So when the car is going and say two people standing in front of the car and it's about to crash into them, how does it decide which one to hit, and how does it decide which one hits and which one doesn't hit? And based on like logic, you could say, or maybe if someone had the wheel of the car, they could spin out and avoid everyone. But then it's looking at it logically, saying, "Oh no, it's a more likely to hit this person because it's better if I hit this one because it will do less damage here and there," kind of thing. So it's just like, what I mean, like how it programs. It's got no thoughts, or it hasn't got any feelings or emotions, or can't like care about the outcome in that way, does it?
Yeah. If the car's carrying you and its purpose is to protect you, the driver, does it then take out the crowd of 10 people sitting by the side of it? It's like, because that's going to soften the blow or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And we can't explain that,
Yeah, it was basically, because it kind of takes out that human emotion part of aspect of it. It's very logical in that way, or very just like matter of fact. There's no it's black and white in what it can see. Like it doesn't think, oh no, the nuance of this or that. It's like, no, do this. That's it. That's the best outcome for me. I'll follow that. Yeah, yeah. It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is, and it's funny, like how we've gone down these like modern parallels. Like not a lot has changed. It's just kind of how we like in both versions of this. I guess from what it's mentioning here, the machines are literally trying to destroy him, but we might think the machines, so it's like the plot to Terminator, you know? Like, we might think they're doing the right thing, and perhaps they are, but if you know, if we talk of like machine learning and the black box problem, if we type it in and say, you know, for example, or we ask it to save the world, then maybe the choice it makes is to get rid of us, because we like that would be the logical choice, you know? That's where this becomes an issue.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of that virus that the Americans invented in, I think, the late 2000, early 2010s. So I think it's called the Stuxnet virus. So what it basically did, they did it to shut down Iran's nuclear power plants. So what it does, it tells the systems everything's running fine, but in the background it's causing sabotage and turning things off simultaneously. So just what happens when we get to the point where AI is doing that to us and no one can detect it. That's what I think that
the black box problem.
Like, exactly,
That's what I'm saying. We think it's all fine, and we don't actually know it's got ulterior motives.
Yeah, but things it's telling us everything's fine, but on the other hand, it's not.
And we have no way of finding
out. Exactly, until it's too late. Yeah, it's like no, it's a scary thought.
Well, it takes it way back to like, I think the machine stops.
Yeah,
being like nobody knows how to fix it because, you know, it's gone wrong. Well, how do we fix it? Well, it's too complex for us.
Yeah,
we put all our faith into it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I wonder how old Bartlett would feel in today's modern age. I don't think he'd survive too well, because back in the 60s when this episode was filmed, everything was plug and play. You know, you plugged in the razor, you plugged in the TV, and things would happen. Where now AI stuff's all sentient, and you know, ChatGPT can create memes and pictures and videos itself without any input from anyone else. So yeah, it's definitely a very different world.
Well, that's kind of interesting. Like, I wonder how this episode would look today. In today's context, like, you know, him being a writer and him like trying to chase the algorithm and like, would he be morally upset that like he's having to kind of tailor his writing to suit the algorithm, and when it doesn't work, he just blames the algorithm. He blames his computer or something.
Yeah, like, it would be like that actually. Yeah, that'd be fascinating. Well, you know, he rely on ChatGPT to come up with all the answers, and then when it didn't do well in the YouTube algorithm, he blame it for it and stuff. I was like, well, hey, maybe you put a bit of thought and process into it, mate. Yeah. I think there's another thing I want to touch on too with this episode as well, is that I think it's kind of having a slight dig at the, you know, television in general at the time, because you think about television before. I was reading that in 1948, only 1% of American households had a TV. And by the end of the 1950s, over 85% of households had a television. So you can imagine this major cultural shift. And back then, too, there was only 3 broadcasting networks. So you had your NBC, CBS, and ABC. So these 3 channels became powerful gatekeepers and were driving what the culture should be and what it could be as well. So
almost enforcing
McCarthyism. Exactly, yeah. And, you know, they were shifting, shaping and shifting the fashion trends and family dynamics, political views, and consumer habits as well. What you said, like very much pushing that middle class suburban lifestyle with the keeping up the Joneses, as you touched on earlier, and reinforcing those post-war gender norms. And you got to have your wife at home and having the 2 kids, and cooking and cleaning, all that kind of stuff. We're all reaffirming that, and we saw that through the television shows like the I Love Lucy's and the Ed Sullivan Show, Leave It to Beaver. Father Knows Best, etc., things like that. So it also came like a new avenue for advertisers to push, their products onto the general public, and can reach a vast audience that they could never reach before, and doing it in a more dynamic way. Like, this is the first time too where we're seeing, political candidates put out their ads out. Like, I think Eisenhower's had some like little catchy thing on his ad going, vote for Ike or something like that. Something really like, it's a bit cringe by today's standards.
But find it, we'll drop it in.
Drop it in, yeah.
You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take Ike to Washington.
I think too, he was trying, even though Serling was kind of, even though you could say he's a bit hypocritical because he was in the TV space, but then he was kind of using this as a reason to show that, like, Bartlett is kind of like revolting against the changing times and the mass consumerism of television itself as a medium. So, like a lot of criticism of TV back then was that like what later becomes like the zombie genre, as you've mentioned before, but like that passive consumption, people just come mindless and just follow whatever's said on the TV screen. A bit like now where we just assume ChatGPT is always right, whatever it tells us it must be correct.
Yes.
Similar kind of veins, exactly. It kind of felt that the American culture and society as well was becoming very shallow and repetitive and overly commercial to the point of like everything's got to have a product placement. I mean, we've seen this trend come and go out through the years, haven't we? Like now, where it always feels like advertisements always trying to creep in everywhere they can find us. Where we can never escape them, can we? They're always around.
No, but I think it's interesting because it's a time, if we go back to like the historical context of the post-war industry and everything, of like it was a time when you touched on it, like the birth of the middle class. I think there was probably the first time in a long time where there was disposable income as well. And I think all these people were open to buying just products because there was a lot of pent up savings during the war. You remember what happened during COVID? There was just that, everyone was saving their money and you couldn't wait to spend. You couldn't spend, and everyone's buying new TVs and new couches, and we never thought it was going to end.
Yeah.
Like if you look at,
it's like a gold rush, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And in our timeline, every company's, we need more people. We hire 20 more people. We need more. Do you think this bubble's going to go forever? And then it doesn't. And then you go into a recession because that's just how it works.
Yeah.
But I think looking at like, if we look at, I already mentioned like, 50% of the world's goods after the war was like made by the US, who only represented about 7% of the population. But, there was a massive need, pent up wartime savings as a consumer spree. There was lots of optimism in the air for a new world. And then, the baby boomers in general, which I think was at 1946 to 1964.
Sure. Yeah, 64, yeah.
Yeah, 72.5 people were born in that time. So there's all these consumers just coming through, and there's I guess suburbanization where people are starting to move out of the cities. So car ownership becomes necessary, and companies are releasing cars every year, and with very little change.
More petrol stations, more oil.
Yeah. Where I think before that, I think when they were releasing new cars, it was the changes were sort of very much mechanical and necessary. Whereas like they were just releasing new cars yearly now, and with just different spoilers or a different color here, and it would become about more the aesthetic of things. Where prior to this, aesthetics wasn't really a thing. But again, this all ties into that marketing thing of we're talking about planned obsolescence. It now becomes perceived obsolescence, which is like you think it's old because it looks old. It's not old, but it looks out of fashion. It doesn't look new anymore. You know what I mean? Like if we think of the way phones change now.
Oh yeah.
But also I think like the GI Bill as well, which was like a helping hand for a lot of the troops coming back to sort of I think you had how many troops did America send over? It was
millions,
15, 20 million, something like that.
Something insane, yeah.
Yeah, where when they came back, a lot of these people had to now transition to civilian life. So the GI Bill was handed out to it gave them cap price mortgages, it gave them unemployment payment to kind of transition over to civilian life. So it gave a lot of these people a leg up, and this is really where you see that birth of the middle class now.
Yeah.
So I think home ownership went up like 18%. So 1940, I think it was 43.6. To 1960, it was 61.9. So all these homes needed appliances; they needed shit to fill them with, and it's like this perfect storm of like of things going on,
all coming together, right?
Yeah. And then again, as we said on the McCarthyism, like essentially being a good consumer was being a good American. Now was it was like tied to identity, and it was reinforced by authority, as you mentioned, like on the TV, and everyone's just advertising, throwing shit at you, and it was almost how you fight communism, like.
I guess too. Back then as well, like with manufacturing jobs as well, like not downgrading or downplaying manufacturing, but like it's not like it's a highly not a lot of critical thinking involved in manufacturing, right? So any Joe Blow could get into a manufacturing job, bang a hammer against whatever they had to do to make it, and they could make a really good living off that single income and support their family. Where going forward, that as the technology was evolving and getting more efficient and taking those jobs away, those kind of people that were in those roles couldn't get jobs like that on that same level anymore. And we're seeing that even in today's now, where the way it's evolved, where that's happening.
It's kind of funny. It's gone the other way now, where you're very celebrated. If you can use your hands, you really do stand out now. Where today we're all just fucking glorified spreadsheet warriors. You know what I mean? Like any Joe Blow can do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gone completely the other way where we're dying out for those skills. You know, there's always trade shortages and.
Yeah, I mean more in fact in terms of like there's automation jobs that's already taken that place. Then yeah, where a traditional like plumber or carpenter, that's fine, but it's more like the manufacturing sector. They all got wiped out by machines doing it, and this is really much reflected at the time in the 1950s when slowly but surely these machines were coming in and taking people's jobs a little bit here and there. Like there was massive concern. This is referenced in the episode as well.
I guess the loss of control.
Control, exactly.
Which
yes.
is kind of in microcosm with Finchley, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So people were seeing these massive computers come into offices as well, and automation of the car manufacturing jobs and stuff as well coming in certain aspects. People were worried about it was going to affect the labor force and displace workers, and without any no other avenue to go to, and leave mass unemployment and maybe cause another Great Depression or something. This is what people were really fearing about, and they were fearing as well that with these automations coming in, that the wealth disparity will grow. And I think it was kind of prophetic in a way when you see where America's exploded, especially when it got to the 80s and beyond, right? Where was it billion? It was like I think before the 80s, like there's only 3 or 4, I remember like 10 or 20 billionaires in America, and now it's like over like 500 of them. Like it just shows how much that's grown. And they're worried too that like the machines were reducing complex jobs into a simple repetitive task, like stripping workers away from craftsmanship and their pride in their work and things like that. So I think it's going to affect the cultural fabric of the workforce,
and the work degrades. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
but I think this also, I guess I was talking about it before, it kind of plays into that whole planned obsolescence thing, where it was around this time when the people were realizing things were built to last. And then they started pulling things away and making things last less. And I already talked about the light bulb thing before. We're capping it at 1,000 hours, which I think is where it remains today. Yeah. It's almost like it's Orwellian in the sense it was always 1,000 hours, brother.
Yeah.
It's just that rations have gone up.
Yeah.
It's very like Ministry of Truth, isn't it?
It is like that, isn't
but
it?
It's like it's because that's what the economy needed. Ironically, I was talking about the capitalism versus communism. This is how we were kind of, and it very much is the basis of a capitalist economy. Like it's just break, consume, and don't worry about the waste. That just it's a system where it's like it's just an infinite system that just never ends. But there's like the planet's got finite resources. Like something does have to give. This is on another note. This is why I get the shits with like companies talking about sustainability and shit when they're all like, "Oh, we're putting recycled materials on this, and you should go and buy this because of this." It's like, "Oh, fuck off!"
Yeah.
Like, if you really gave a shit, you wouldn't adopt this system, would you? You'd build something that fucking lasts 25 years, but you won't because the shareholders won't like that, and you won't make any fucking money. But I don't care that you're making money. Just stop fucking pretending that like you care,
Yeah, you get off your moral high horse.
I have a fucking problem with that. It's good. This podcast is cathartic for me. Shit like that. But ironically, if you look at a communist economy at the time, I think in East Germany, washing machines and fridges were required to last 25 years. Now the irony of like in the West, we're all just buying shit and it's breaking after 5 years, and it just needs to keep replacing because that's what the economy needs. Where I guess if you look at like a centrally planned, scarcity-driven economy, there's always shortages in the in the communist economy. Frequent replacements made no sense, so things were built to last. I think the irony in that, when you look back and you're like, oh, they're all poor and struggling, but they can build things that last a long time.
Yeah, and get the most out of it.
Their goods were more durable. It's when you think about it, it's crazy,
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, this episode is like, as I said, like on the surface we thought it was not much there, but there actually
there was a lot. There's a lot of rabbit holes. We're way off target here.
Yeah, we're back on target. Sorry, but there's one funny quote I found from this episode, and it got me thinking about it because it is kind of relevant. It's still relevant today, where Bartlett's going to the typewriter lady. She's going about, oh, you need to see a doctor. You're going insane. And he goes, oh, what is it with everyone these days? You're happy. See a doctor. If you're depressed, see a doctor. If you need this, see a doctor. And it kind of reflects at the time too, where it felt in the 20th century that no matter what you did or what you had to do, seeking some form of therapy or advice always was the way to solve all your issues. And then it taps into that consumerism thing that we talk about. That's how you solve your issues, is by seeing something and paying for someone to fix it for you.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. With the American health system. It plays into that like. It takes you along these lines of thinking, as I was saying, and I've kept going on about planned obsolescence, but there's an uncomfortable thing. You sit there and, particularly with the amount of money that they make in drugs and everything, it's like, if they had the cure for cancer, do you think they'd actually release it? Or do you think there's too much money being made on actually treating it?
Yeah.
Like that, there's that uneasy thing. You sit there because too much industry relies on it. Too many doctors get paid too much from it. It's that uneasy thing that kind of makes you think that conflict of interest.
Yeah, also when you say, like, if all crime was outlawed, would police want that? Because then they would have nothing to do.
It's like the industry collapses.
Exactly.
Yeah, is it for the greater good that we have it? Like, it taps into all these things. And it all ties back to that, the next time your washing machine breaks and you get the shits and you're shouting at that poor guy on the sales floor, you fucking, why don't they build them like they used to, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Fucking think about what the economy is built on. It opens up this can of worms.
Yeah, exactly. And it's another thing too about that quote as well. What made me think about too, because you could say that, no matter how you're feeling, or even you're venting, like it's kind of like everything, no matter how big or trivial it is, there's always somewhere there to pathologize and diagnose you with an issue or a problem. And we see that a lot these days, where everyone's got anxiety, everyone's got depression, everyone's got they've got ADHD or something. There's all that side. Like it's like everyone's like kind of fishing for a problem, and it's kind of like takes the piss out of it, like saying like, oh yeah, no matter what, or everything's got to be pathologized in that way. Yeah, I found that quite funny when he kind of like taking a little slight dig at people, always like using therapy talk for everything to solve, to diagnose stuff.
And what does he call a doctor, like the idiot of the 20th century? Or
yeah,
something?
Yeah, he goes in that rant. Yeah,
funny. You know what it made me think of? I went to the doctor's a few weeks ago, just to check on something, and he was asking me questions, but he was reading off of a screen, like off of like a checklist, and he could see that I was like, he was like, oh right, yep, just looking at this screen here, and I'm sort of like, I'm fucking, you're just reading off a screen, like it's almost like that's guiding you. I was really uneasy about it. I'm like, fuck, I could do that. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It wasn't making me feel better at all. Like what if I just lie to you?
Yeah, oh, tick, tick, tick. Yeah,
it's like, oh, based on this, yeah, you seem okay. Like, oh, all right.
Yeah, it's funny. Just on that too. Well, I was reading too that this was when like psychiatry care and like was starting to become more mainstream. So that's why it was added into the episode as well, like kind of like a little slight reference to that. But the irony was that how Finchley's taking the piss out of the medical profession, but then like consider it being, I guess there's that old stigma with men, that men never go to the doctor, they're too proud, they're too stoic to go to the doctor to see they've got any issues. But then at the same time, later in the episode, he calls his own doctor. Like it's just like he kind of, again, once again, him being a hypocrite about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, still using technology, still using the things he complains about to help him out, So.
Well, he's complicit in the very system he detests.
Exactly. Yeah. He's got all these answers. He's got all these,
He thinks he's above it, but he's not.
He's not. Yeah, he's just as bad as anyone else. Yeah.
Actually, I want to take a minute to actually talk through, I guess, his opening narration and his closing narration as well, because he speaks, as we mentioned before, this is very poetic and very
very elegant,
almost spellbinding the way he does it.
It's hypnotizing in a way, isn't it?
Yeah,
it really draws you in.
Yeah, it is, and he's kind of like your moral vehicle or something through it, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like initially, he goes, what he said: "This is Mr. Bartlett Finchley, age 48, a practicing sophisticate who writes very special and very precious things for gourmet magazines and the like. He's a bachelor and a recluse with few friends, only devotees and adherents to the cause of tart sophistry. He has no interest save whatever current annoyances he can put his mind to. He has no purpose to his life except the formulation of day-to-day opportunities to vent his wrath on mechanical contrivances of an age he abhors. In short, Mr. Bartlett Finchley is a malcontent, born either too late or too early in the century, and who, in just a moment, will enter a realm where muscles and the will to fight back are not limited to human beings. Next stop for Mr. Bartlett Finchley, the Twilight Zone."
Yeah. Yeah, it's...
You couldn't ask ChatGPT to write that, could
you?
you?
No, it's so elegant, so just... And I guess, like, you reading it, but just the way he presents it as well, it's just so, like, hypnotizing and spellbinding.
We were having a discussion off air before, and you were saying one of the first things that, when you saw this episode, was fucking how far linguistically we've fallen.
Oh, yeah, that's the first thing I thought. Yeah, you feel like you're watching some, like, this was just a normal TV show back in the day. Now you feel like that's some highbrow, sophisticated piece of art kind of thing.
Yeah. Even I guess the TV repairman is an absolute. He's like William Shakespeare.
Oh no, he is. Yeah, very all powerful, all knowing. Yes. Yeah. No, I found that bit towards the end very interesting. How Bartlett is he's born either too late or too early in the century. Kind of like it makes me think of people like maybe a little bit like our generation, like with millennials, like where we were that last generation just before the internet, so we understand, like we remember life beforehand.
On the cusp.
We're on the cusp, but then the life now where Gen Z and Generation Alpha growing up with all technology, how they're all encompassing and all, it's all they've known, right? Where we're kind of like that in between where like we know what technology is, but we don't fully embrace. We know that it's bad for us, but then we still go along with it. But then we don't like it, but then we don't do anything about it, really, kind of thing,
Yeah, what's the word? We sort of through gritted teeth, we kind of just accept that we kind of can't stop progress.
Yeah.
It would be like, I guess I keep going back to the Luddites at the dawn of the second industrial age, going around destroying machines like that was going to do something.
Yeah,
like we're just kind of embracing the fact that it's probably going to change the world and it's going to take our jobs in some sort of aspect,
Yeah, and we're just we're powerless to do anything about it, right?
Yeah, you can't stop it. Yeah.
So no, you can definitely, in reference to Mr. Finchley in this regard, like you felt like he was meant to be born in the old literature era of the moderns of the world, where you go down to the local, I don't know, the local tapestry or whatever it is, and someone's speaking poetry and stuff, and he'd be there going, "Oh yes, clap clap, ha ha," kind of thing. Like, yeah.
There's part of me, I kind of hear a little bit of sarcasm in Rod Sterling's voice when he's going through, just the way he talks about, a practicing sophisticator who writes very special and very precious thing for gourmet magazines.
But yeah.
I kind of take that, what does he say? Like he's born either too late or too early in the century. He's a malcontent. Like I don't think he's ever going to be happy. I don't know if that's like he's too important. He in his own mind belongs to another time and he's so above everyone. But wherever he is, he wouldn't be happy. That's kind of what I take from it. Like he's just one of those. He's just sort of I guess he feels like he's so much more superior, and nobody gets him. But that's kind of by choice.
Yeah, well, it gives him that sense of superiority in a way where he's above everyone. He's more intellectual. You basic peasants, and not to my level of intellect and prestige. Yeah,
it's very much like a guy who sort of loves a band but then hates them when they become too mainstream.
Yeah,
I was there at the beginning. I've been guilty of that myself.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're all guilty of it at times. Yeah,
but it's like that on steroids.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I think it's kind of like what I've told on this podcast before, where like when someone tells me, "Oh, you have to watch this show," I'm like, "Oh, no," because if you've watched it, it's too mainstream for me. I've got to find it myself. Yeah.
And then you hate that you like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he seems like a very a bit of a spiteful person, old Finchley, isn't he?
Yeah.
But he's the kind of guy too that's like like he thinks he's so sophisticated and above everyone and full on intellectual. Then one of those people that spends their life at university and gets all these degrees but never uses it properly or anything like that. It's like it's all great having all these wonderful things, but what do you popped into practical use for it, kind of thing? Yeah. I mean, to his credit, the house he lives in is pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
And you got to wonder why he's filled it with the very machines that he hates. But I think when we've spoken about the historical context and the age of conformity, he just detests the fact that this is what he has to do to get by,
Yeah, exactly. I think it's done purposely as well, that the house is like set. It feels like it's some 1920s old grand home or something, as opposed to something that was in the 1950s at the time. Like it doesn't feel suburban at all. It feels like one of those old vintage homes that you'd see in those old that time of period in the 1920s, right? So yeah.
Very stately.
Very stately, exactly. Yeah. Now you can imagine the butlers and the handmaid. Sorry, the maids coming down and stuff, right? Yeah. Well, on that too, we'll get to the closing narration as well. That he says, "Do you want to read that as well?"
Yeah. So yes, it could just be that Mr. Bartlett Finchley succumbed from a heart attack and a set of delusions. It could just be that he was tormented by an imagination as sharp as his wit and as pointed as his dislikes. But as perceived by those attending, this is one explanation that has left the premises with the deceased. Look for it filed under M for machines in the Twilight Zone.
I love that ending to it, yeah, where he says it delivers it as well, yeah. Well, for people who haven't seen it, so at the end of it, the car chases him around the whole place, and he stumbles into the pool at the end of it where the car
very prophetic with the self-driving car that you can quite clearly see someone's driving.
driving.
That's
Exactly.
all right.
Yeah. It is the 1960s. We'll
They
let it pass.
really did have an attempt to try and make it look like someone wasn't driving, you know. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, they didn't have CGI and special effects back
No,
then, did they?
no.
It's all practical.
yeah. If Michael Bay did it, it would have been better.
Oh,
There would have been more explosions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so his body falls into the water and it sinks, and it stays there the whole time. And then when the doctor pulls him out, or the police pulls him out, and the doctor's there, they say that same thing, how obscure it is. And I remember thinking that, I wonder what the reference is to it. Like, why is he making emphasis on this point about the body sinking down? And from what I can gather, it was really part.
Because when the policeman says like they always float. He never came up. He didn't float. Yeah, I think is what. And I was the same. I'm sort of like, yeah, I wonder why they added that in. And
Yeah, well, there's a couple of takes from it, from what I can tell, because apparently a lot of the times Rod Serling stuff had that eerie supernatural aspect to it, where it was left ambiguous in that way. So it has that creepy element to it, where like, oh, it's supernatural, or something beyond our scopes and understanding of the world happens. Yeah,
well, you're left thinking. I think first most you say it wasn't his imagination, or did it actually happen? Because there's a point where like he wakes up when he gets chased by his car and goes out the house, and all the appliances sort of rise up. He's drunk, right? You can see he's drunk.
Yeah, they cut scene. The bottles,
a hot bottle of whiskey, so
gone.
That kind of plays in it too, right?
Yeah, exactly. But then other people have said like it's kind of metaphoric in a way. So like it's kind of like because Finchley had such a strong hatred and disdain for technology, and it was so absolute, and so was the machine's vengeance on him, that the not floating implies that his fate was final and inescapable in a way. So he would never resurface literally or metaphorically. So kind of saying that, yeah, their vengeance upon him have taken him down to the depths of something he can never escape, like in life and in death as well. So yeah,
I have no mouth and I must scream.
Yeah, it is a bit like that. Yeah, the machines rise. I guess another thing that it says too, that it was just that kind of a horror mood signal. So it's kind of like, is it unsettling, illogical, like to leave the audience in suspense about, the power beyond his death and erasing the natural processes of the human body. So it's basically touching on the Twilight Zone tropes in a way. So yeah, I found it very obscure. I wanted to know why that was so emphasized, but yeah, it's meant to be left unambiguous and eerie in that way.
Yeah,
so
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, and it goes, as I said, it goes into the themes of the Twilight Zone, where some episodes are about something like the machine doing this, and the episodes like it's fourth, going into the third or fourth dimension kind of aspects as well. So leading up to the supernatural and the unexplained. Yes.
Yeah, on the surface, this one doesn't seem like a lot, but it's taken us down some interesting rabbit holes. And just like, first take on this one, I don't know if you'll ever see this one in any of the top 10 or 20 lists of the Twilight Zone episodes. But, if this is one of their mediocre ones, I'd love to see one, one of their top 10 lists, because this is still very thought-provoking.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see why this franchise has been, rejuvenated throughout the years. I think it's on to its fourth iteration. So this was the original one, then the 80s one, then it came out again in like the early 2000s. And then recently, Jordan Peele did one as well in the late 2010s, early 2020s. So it just shows that there's something about these themes and supernatural elements to it that keeps people fascinated and wanting to keep delving into it.
Yeah, and we had to bloody sail the high seas to find this episode as well.
Yeah, well, I gave into the Apple overlords to get this one.
Yeah, I did. I went and got Apple TV on a free trial. I thought, oh, sweet, it's on there. And then after all that, signing up, putting my credit card details on, going in, cancelling it, so I make sure I don't forget about it. And then I got to it, and then I got to the episode, and there'll be another $3.99. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake!
Can't win, can you? Yeah. Speaking about the joys of modern technology.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
machine always it gets your credit card every time.
The algorithm will get you.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else you want to add before we wrap this one up?
No, I think that's everything.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I highly recommend anyone give this a watch. It's a 25-minute episode. It's very easy to watch, and it's kind of probably aged pretty well in regards with all the allegories it brings
the
up.
modern parallels, definitely.
Yeah. So Andrew, what can viewers expect on next week's episode?
Well, we're going down the a bit of an alternate history where the Nazis won. It's not our first venture into this territory, but we're doing Fatherland. The Robert Harris book came out in 1990 or 1992.
Yeah, I believe around that time. Yeah, it's a very interesting book, very interesting concept, and to see what the outcome. Seeing Robert Harris's view of what he thinks the world would look like if the Nazis won World War II. So, as you just mentioned, we've done it previously with Wolfenstein. So I'm really keen to get into this one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and as always, guys, you can follow us on our socials at Dystopedia Pod for Instagram and Tumblr. You can shoot us an email, info@dystopediapodcast.com. Follow us on YouTube at Dystopedia. Like, subscribe, comment, all those great things. Ring the bell, and on behalf of myself and Andrew, we'll catch you next week.
See you next time.